Okay. I have myself a nice little notification at the top of my StreamYard live stream saying that I have a poor internet signal, which is always fun, especially when I've got myself a leaded connection to my computer. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along. Those hearing my voice right now are those that have got their notifications turned on the old YouTubes. Thank you very much indeed. As always, hit like, hit subscribe, do the nonsense, and do what needs to be done down below. Hit the bell. Well, okay, lightly tap the bell. Ding. And then, yeah, you'll find out when we do this every weekend. As it happens, next weekend, the bell may be ringing a fair amount because we're in Harrogate, and I'm going to be doing my best to live stream as much as I possibly can from the communications black hole, which is the Harrogate Convention Centre. Because as all convention centres are, they are a lead-lined box designed to either withhold all kind of information and broadcasts, and therefore can be used as bedrocks of black site information and torture devices, or Comic-Cons, which, strangely enough, are similar in vibe. But we'll talk about that because we are going to be talking about the Thought Bubble. We're also going to be talking to a fantastic guest about a Kickstarter which is running at the moment. He communicated with me that he wanted to come on and talk about the Kickstarter. And now that I've seen his Kickstarter page, he needs no help whatsoever because he's flown past his target. He's doing very nicely on it. It's a very popular Kickstarter. We'll talk about that. As always, dive in on the comments. Let us know where you are. Let us know where you're watching. We've already got a whole bunch of people who are saying hello, and we'll get into that, and we'll say hello to them very shortly indeed. All right, let's do it, shall we? Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Len Sultana, and if you're new to the channel, which you may be, seeing as Dave Cook, who is our guest a little bit later, has turned around and said that, well, we've got ourselves this conversation happening, and we may be having one or two people that are joining us to say hello about that. If you're fresh to the channel, welcome along. Each and every Sunday, we talk Comic-Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense we get to enjoy at such shows. And it's been a busy, fair old month, and will be a fair old couple of weeks up to come, because we've just had, obviously, Baltimore last week. I apologize / hope you enjoyed our little live report from Danbury last week. He was distracted. He had Jim Starlin in front of him, and he had books to sign. Nice books as well. So he was a little bit tied up, and the camera ended up being at the floor a lot. I get it. But hopefully you got to get a sense of Baltimore, especially considering how quiet it was, which was a little bit disturbing. But thankfully, people were enjoying it. What I've looked into, it seemed like everyone had a great time. So, yeah, all fun and games in that regard. We also had MCM last week as well, which is why I wanted to pull up my YouTube channel, which, by the way, now has its own handle. So if you want to find me on YouTube, what you can do is you can go to youtube.com/ampersand, so the and symbol, Englishman SDCC. and it'll just take you straight to there. So that's rather cool. So yeah, if you want to find out more about what I do on the old YouTube, by all means, please do dive in on that. But the thing I wanted to bring up the YouTube channel for is we did have a comment from Geek Explorers about MCM, which happened last weekend as well. Was at MCM all weekend. Friday was the busiest I've ever seen it, though still manageable. Sellers all seemed pleased. Saturday was very busy, but far more manageable than Saturday in May when it was packed to bursting. Spent the middle of Saturday in panels, so may have missed some of the congestion. Sunday was busy but calm. eBay's stand was great, and the idea behind it made sense, and it fit well within the con. I'm sorry, but it still seemed like a very strange stand to have. But anyway, had a small selection of high-value, rare Pokemon and Magic cards, but the main highlight was being able to make a custom trading card of yourself. It was an amazing weekend, by far the best UK con I've been to this year. Thank you very much indeed to Geek Explorers for that review of that. As always, any comments, if you're watching this, if you've been to a show, let us know what shows you've been to, what conventions you've been to, and what your thoughts have been of it. MCM, from a retailer and from an exhibitor's standpoint, from what I've been hearing, it's been a roaring success. So MCM seems to be getting back to form. Mark Serby posted his review on the conventioncollective.com. So, of course, do head to his page, to exclamation mark on the old Convention Collective. And you can also see the review that Dan Berry did of New York Comic Con. We posted that yesterday. He had a great time. His first New York Comic Con. I know you'd have thought he was a veteran of all of this, but no, he went to New York Comic Con and he posted his review. Again, a show that he felt was definitely a return to form. So we are not necessarily post-COVID, but we're certainly post-lockdown. I fully expect, however, next weekend, a lot, if not the majority of people are going to be masked up, because it did go down so well last year to have that level of protection. And I think the attendees did as well. We'll talk to Dave Cook about that very shortly indeed. Let's say hello to everybody as well who is joining us. Chuck Cook is watching, going to have only a half eye on the vid chat this morning, but listening, howdy. I'm guessing that's regarding this. Solicitors, Meg. You're fighting for my attention with my LV Raiders, so be entertaining, man. I'll try my best. Thanks for that. Andrew English, hello from London. Have you had background noise while working on last Sunday's MCM London cosplay pictures? I've been posting the links to those on the Facebook page for the Convention Collective. The pictures that he took, I mean, he usually takes about 200, 250 a day. He was easily into the 2000. So yeah, plenty of photos and lots of cosplay at MCM last weekend. Into the Blue Mister, welcome from dark and cold South Wales, where it's raining horizontally. Oh my lord. Well, yeah, it's not great here in Yorkshire either. Hopefully it's going to be manageable for next week in Harrogate. So let's see if we stay nice and dry. Yes, we are going to be talking about this as well later on. Sarita P, hello to everyone after the aftermath. Yes, it was the San Diego Comic-Con Open Reg. We're going to talk about that at the back end of the show. But let's dive into this then, because he's waited long enough. It's 6 minutes past, for God's sake. There's a Kickstarter that's currently running at the moment. It's a final chapter of a saga, capital S, but not that saga. Another one. Basically, it's a... Well, I'm going to let the man himself describe it. This is the writer of KILLTOPIA. We'd like to welcome Dave Cook to the show. Hello there, Dave. How the devil are you, sir?
Hey, yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm surprisingly mild, given how cold Scotland is right now. I'm all the way up here. It should be cold, but I'm actually okay.
The temper, yeah. I mean, I've always turned around and maintained that this is just basically the Matrix changing the settings. And it's, you know what I mean? It's literally from the second Halloween kicks in, goes, all right, so we're obviously in that period of time. You can click F5 cold. There you go. And it's just the Matrix just reset, calibrating our brains. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us. As always, we have 3 questions just to kind of introduce you to everybody and find out a little bit more about you. Number 1, I'm on the PG tips today. Yes. Nice. Shelley Bond is not going to be happy with me, but I am on the PG tips. What is your beverage of choice? What are you on at the moment? Are you on an adult beverage to wrap up your weekend, or what's going on?
Well, I've just gotten over a nasty chest infection, so I'm drinking some fizzy effervescent vitamin C.
It does the trick, man. If it does,
it's not the most glamorous, but it's really helping me. So yeah, it's good. It's been a bit of a rough week as well. So
man, well, here's to a swift and full recovery for you, especially towards next weekend. I was expecting Lemsip or Bovril. So yeah, but at least you're looking after yourself. At least there's that. Number two, your Comic-Cons experience. Can you remember your first Comic-Con that you went to? What was the first one that you went, and it was your first show that you just remember taking in that Comic-Con experience?
It was the very first time I went to Edinburgh Comic Con. It was before it went to the big venue. It used to go to quite a lot. It was in a place called the Usher Hall, and it was quite a small show. But that was my first show as a punter, and I had half finished my very first comic book as well. So I kind of went there with a mission to like show my work to people and get feedback and get business cards and things like that. And it was just mind blowing. Like it was so much fun, and it's not kind of how I imagined it would be. It was just great, and so many of those people I met there are still my friends today on the con circuit. So it's just really nice to think about that show and where it all kind of started. And yeah, it was cool. It's just a shame it's no longer with us now. Edinburgh Comic Con, it's kind of done now, which is a shame.
Did you walk through the door thinking, excuse me, I'm the next Chris Claremont, out of my way? And then about halfway through the day, it's like, there are other people out there, and they are, yes.
I was really nervous actually, because I don't like to like bother people. So I was like at the Comic Con table, like with my iPad with like some pages we'd finished, like, oh, hello, excuse me, could you have a look, please? Fully expecting to be told to just go away and stop being a nuisance. But like it was the opposite. Everyone was really cool, and I started to think, oh, maybe this is not so bad. So it was quite a nice little confidence boost, I think, just to see that people were so welcoming, and well, the community like is so cool. So it's like it was just nice to experience that for the first time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the third question I usually ask is, going to Comic Cons, then you get to meet your peers and your heroes. Those moments there where you've just lost the plot. You've found someone in front of you, and you just and just it's verbal diarrhea that just comes out. Yeah. Any memories you'd like to forget, basically?
Yeah, I mean, quite a lot over the years. I mean, one of them wasn't actually at a con, but it was at my local Forbidden Planet. Derek Robertson was doing a signing, because he was like, he was sort of tracing his lineage, Robertson, around Scotland with his family, just sort of checking the country out and stuff. And it was weird because he did an art print for the very first KILLTOPIA. So I brought a copy for him of issue 1, just as a, to give it to him in person. And I queued up, and number one, he recognized me on sight. So I was like, that's weird. So already I'm making a fool of myself, like, stuttering. And and I went, here's a copy of KILLTOPIA. He went, oh, thanks, man. Can you sign it for me? And I just went, fuck off. Because you're, I'm like, no, I was like, no, you're the guy. You're the big guy. This is weird. But he was like such a gent and really nice. And we held up the queue for too long, so eventually he told me to like politely go away. But I'd like to forget that one, yeah. Even though it was really nice, it was also really embarrassing.
Nice. Okay, excellent memory, great story. Thank you very much indeed for that. But let's talk about KILLTOPIA, because that's what you're here to talk about. Because I mean, this is been a series which has got itself a very strong fan base. Illustrated by the well received Kickstarter that is running right now, and this is volume 5. It's the final chapter. You're wrapping things up with Clark Bint, who's your artist, and being published by BHP Comics. If you could give the audience, I am going to be playing the Kickstarter video at the end of the video, by the way, but if you can tell everybody the story behind KILLTOPIA, please.
Yeah, certainly. So KILLTOPIA is set in Neo Tokyo in the sort of not too far future. And one day, killer mecha, like just these robots just appear and rampage across the city and start killing everyone for no reason. But rather than fix the problem, the Japanese government's like, hey, we can make some money off of this. So they cordon off a big section of the city, corral all the mechs into this one bit and call it KILLTOPIA. And it breeds like the world's biggest blood sport. So all these people come from all around the world to Japan to make their money, fame, and fortune killing the robots for sport. But it just so happens the robots are also killing us when they terraform and reproduce, because they can sort of naturally reproduce themselves. They release these spores into the air that makes everyone sick. So they're slowly killing the planet. And the main character is a guy called Shinji, who's like a rookie hunter. He just like picks up bits of scrap for salvage. He's not a very well trained hunter. He's pretty bad at hunting these robots. But his sister is dying of this disease, so he uses the money to like pay for her medical care, that kind of thing. But one day he finds at the very start of the story the world's first sentient mech. It can think, it can feel, it can talk English or Japanese in our case. And it has the cure to this disease inside its systems for some reason. So together, those two guys team up and try to solve, okay, how do we cure the world of this disease? But there's a bounty on their heads. So every Yakuza, scumbag, corporate killer, soldier of fortune all around the planet comes to Japan to like get this one robot, just triggering this big battle royale across the entire city. So it gets a bit wild. The 5th issue is kind of leading up to this big yearly battle royale tournament that takes place in Tokyo rather, where 50 of the world's best robot hunters kill each other for the ultimate prize. But yeah, it was kind of born out of my love for things like Battle Royale the movie, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, and lots of Japanese action video games like No More Heroes, Bayonetta, just those really like brash, over the top action games that have really big characters. So yeah, that's the kind of story in a nutshell. It's taken a long time to sort of get to this point, but yeah, it's kind of weird that we're doing the last chapter now. It's very, very surreal.
How's the reaction been to KILLTOPIA from sort of the native readers of Japanese action manga and action comics, such as the ones you mentioned? Because I can imagine that KILLTOPIA has been read over in Japan. Heaven knows it's popular enough and people know about it. So what's been the reaction of a guy from Scotland having a crack at their style of storytelling?
So it was interesting. Like the very first 2 issues were done by a different artist, my friend Craig, and his brother at the time lived in Japan. He'd been there for quite a while, so he kind of acted as our kind of like culture consultant, I guess, because we didn't want to offend anyone. We didn't want to assume things about Japanese culture. I mean, I've been to Tokyo before myself, but it's good to just get that kind of boots on the ground perspective, just to double check that we're not going to upset anyone. So he sort of looked over the script and the pages, and he even told us like little things like in the first issue, there's a cop car, and in the script it said, the lights are meant to be blue and red, like American cop cars are. And he said, no, in Japan they're just red. So we changed little things like that, even just to like make sure it was as correct as it could be.
Nice.
But yeah, we have some Kickstarter backers in Japan. They haven't commented too much on the culture side of it, but a lot of people can really see where we're coming from as far as the references we have. So the 2nd issue introduces a character called King Kaiju, who is basically, if you imagine Coca-Cola as an even more evil corporation, and their sponsor, their like mascot characters, a giant hulking Gundam. He's like a big character in that, but he's very styled against Kaneda and Kaneda's bike from Akira, like all red and kind of motifs. So a lot of people have picked up on all of our references, which is really nice. But yeah, a lot of people can see that the things that we love and the things that have inspired the comic are just shining through on the page quite naturally. So people really sort of can tell that we're really just fans of the stuff we're trying to adapt. So that's been quite nice as well.
That's rather cool. I mean, this is a story which has definitely had its home on Kickstarter, pretty much from the word go. Why was crowdfunding the choice of yourself and your creative partners to get the story out there and create the community to get KILLTOPIA into people's hands? Why was crowdfunding the vehicle that you needed to get the story told?
So it was interesting because my very first crowdfunding campaign for a comic was in 2014. So I was quite early to the platform, but it was because back then I used to be a games journalist. I recently have started doing games journalism again after like 20 years out of the game. But back then, I had interviewed a lot of game developers who were active on Kickstarter at its very earliest days. And through that process of speaking to them, I got a feel for kind of how they did their campaigns, how Kickstarter kind of functions, how it works, and also like not what to do. Um, Lots of bad habits and reasons why campaigns fail. So through all that sort of interaction with those studios, I got a feel for how to sort of do my own. So I just did it. I just jumped in with both feet in 2014. I did my very first comic on Kickstarter. I think we made just over $1,000, and obviously we've kind of blown up since then. But even then, to me, I was like, oh God, it was like a light bulb moment, you know, like, oh, this is viable. This is like something that can happen long term. And I just love it because people who backed that first comic way back in 2014 are still backing our stuff now. You know, they've come back for every new campaign, and I just think that speaks to Kickstarter's community element. You know, you can do updates and speak directly to people, and just bring them on the journey with you. You know, like letting them see the comic being made over time and seeing it evolve to the final state. You know, the final finished product. And I just quite like that. It's just a nice way to let people in and into the process a bit. So I think we'll always do Kickstarters. I am sort of toying with the idea of using crowdfunder just to try that out with something a bit smaller, perhaps. But all of our fans are on Kickstarter, so it makes sense to just stay there for now. But yeah, I like it as a platform. Plus, it keeps us autonomous. You know, we're kind of masters of our own destiny on there.
This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly when I've been following Kickstarters and crowdfunding, the issues certainly have been in regards to how the platform. I mean, I don't think it's just the platform, to be honest, because it's a lot of issues that people have to deal with when it comes to self-publishing nowadays. Internet. I mean, like you say, that the series has blown up, and it's also blown up internationally as well. How much of a hit does international shipping make for a independent producer and publisher, certainly here in the UK? I mean, Brexit and it's just getting even just paper is proving difficult, and getting the books printed out now. Just how painful is getting stuff abroad, and when you see the audience growing abroad, does that actually make your heart go a little bit colder?
Yeah, to be honest, and it's nothing against our international backers, of course. Like we love the fact that they support us, but sometimes when a campaign skews more to overseas backers than UK backers, which has happened before. In fact, one of my most recent comics was themed around baseball, specifically Baseball Ninjas. It was a adaptation of a video game that we got the rights to. But baseball obviously being bigger in the States, the backers there skewed more heavily towards America. So I was like, oh no. Yeah, because it is so expensive now. It's I think it's now like for one copy of KILLTOPIA to send to the States, I think now it's like £6 or £7, maybe even £8 now. If you use like standard shipping, you know, there's cheaper options, but they take weeks. You know, putting on a boat takes like 8 weeks, and it's just like things might go missing. You know, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, even print costs are going up, and I think my last few campaigns, I actually priced the shipping and stuff 100% accurately. And all of a sudden, people were like, "Oh, your prices have gone up. I'm not going to back your stuff anymore. It's too expensive now." And I'm like, "Oh God!" But then, you know, that's the exact amount we needed. You know, so it's like for KILLTOPIA, we always kind of lowball it a little bit, just because we know, not to sound big-headed, but we've got a fan base enough that we know we're going to hit our target, so we can afford to lowball it a little bit. But for my smaller comics, that's not possible. So yeah, we have a much harder time trying to get those ones funded for sure. But I'd say shipping and printing and stuff like that is definitely a large factor because of that. Yeah.
Oh wow. And I mean, I for myself, I mean, there's a couple of American campaigns which I've wanted to back. I mean, even not like American. The campaign for Elsa Chaterier's effort at the moment, which she's doing with James Tiernan. I don't know if I can back it, because the shipping is actually going to be about maybe another 10 quid on top of what my actual tier would be. And then you just really start you're looking at it and you blink twice and you think, I don't know. But I guess it also timing as well, and the timing that you've chosen to do now. I mean, if anything, you could say that you've timed it absolutely bang on. You launched it just before November, so people aren't necessarily looking at the bank balance and going, Christmas. And so like a couple of days just before Christmas. And like I say, I mean, if we bring up the page again, it's running particularly well. I think it is a way you could put it. I mean, we're looking at a £7,000 goal, 10,315 at the moment, with 27 to go. I mean, is that when you aimed for that goal, was it a case of I can then really take into consideration shipping and people who may not be backing us this time around because we're getting so close to Christmas?
Yeah, so we always have a 6-month lead time for KILLTOPIA, just because of the detail in the artwork. So 6 months puts us, I think, at June. I think so. We're looking to ship in June, which should get us ready in time for, like MCM London October, Thought Bubble, of course, stuff like that. But yeah, the goal 7,000 is just how much we need to make it to make the book, basically. And everything else on top of that is kind of a bonus. But yeah, I don't like to overshoot the target, because I'm always worried that like we won't hit it, or the dreaded thing, the campaign ends and lots of people cancel their pledges because maybe they realize, oh no, I can't afford this now, and then you go back under target. I've had that happen to me before. So yeah, I think this time of year we just thought it's probably the last chance before December we had to really put a campaign out, because I don't think anyone should launch a campaign in December. It's not good strategy.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, this is our last chance, our last window to do it in. Let's just do it and get it out next summer. That's how we kind of planned it. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm going to bring the page up again. Let's talk about your partner in crime. Let's talk about Clark Bint, who's your artist on this particular book, and also is it the previous two? I believe.
Yeah,
right.
So Clark's done 3, 4, and 5. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I was impressed with 3. I've been following KILLTOPIA. I was impressed with the third one. 4th was also fantastic. With that, what he did with that third chapter was just kind of, okay, my turn, whack, and just really kind of he came on with just really exploded onto the page. What he's doing here with number 5. I believe this is a page. This is a page for number 5. Oh no, this is number 4.
That's from 4. Yeah, I think we've got a few pages from 5 on here. Yeah.
I mean, what he's doing with the book. I mean, if you just want to kind of talk about what he's doing with KILLTOPIA and how he is taking your scripts and just really rolling with it.
So the thing with KILLTOPIA, like with Craig and Clark, actually, is that whenever I write scripts, I try not to be too prescriptive, because I don't want to dictate every minute detail. In some cases, that's fine. If it's a really critical page to the story, you want to make sure that everything's going to be captured and represented. But in the terms of Clark and Craig, I definitely leave a lot to the imagination, because I trust them so much just to sort of get it. So I'll sort of explain the main things that need to happen in the page for story, for continuity, for establishing what's going to happen on the next page. But everything else, honestly, is just kind of fair game. And Clark will quite often, because he works on paper first, he works on A3 paper by hand. So it starts as pencils, then it moves on to inks, then he scans it in, then he completes it there. But I tend to get sort of roughs, pencil roughs sort of early on, just to say, okay, is this looking kind of right? Is this kind of what you had in your head? Is there anything else that you want me to add? But apart from that, in terms of references and Easter eggs and stuff as well, like he's added loads of his own ones in, where I sometimes haven't noticed them until I actually get the printed book. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thing. That's weird. I didn't know that was in there. But I think it just comes from like a lot of trust, before we even started on book 3, me and Clark had a lot of Skype calls and Zoom calls just to like get to know each other, kind of our influences, and talk about, you know, where I sort of saw the series heading and things like that. So I think it's just trust, honestly, just to say, hey, here's my base template. Now you just run riot with it. And he really has, you know. I think the 3rd issue was a statement of intent from him, like, okay,
Sure.
I'm the new artist now, you know. So yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that we haven't shown yet is just nuts. So there's even more to come. Yeah.
Wow. And when it comes to those conversations, and when you're talking this, I mean, this is the final chapter. Where did you, or when did you know that this was where the story was heading? How far ahead did you have KILLTOPIA mapped out in your head?
So in broad strokes, I always knew this was going to be the last one. I say broad strokes because I knew it was always
No
going to
pun
end
intended.
Yeah. Well, I always knew it was going to end with this big tournament that's happening. So it's kind of I don't want to like compare myself to Avengers Infinity War, but broadly it's like a big battle on different fronts. You know, there's different people doing stuff over here, there's people doing stuff over here, all with like the same goal of defeating this big enemy. So it does jump around a lot, but it's all wrapped around this big battle royale tournament that's happening in Tokyo. And we sort of tease in the very first book that this tournament's going to happen in 3 months. So the whole span of KILLTOPIA takes place over 3 months essentially, and we kind of knew that would give us enough time to sort of move all the pieces into place, have all the different plot threads going to happen. 3 months felt like a sort of decent timeline. As far as 5 issues, when that was always sort of set in stone that it would be 5 issues. But to be honest, a lot of the stuff in the middle, you know, I did because I write issue to issue. I don't do them all in one big go and then work with an artist. So after issue 1 was done, I'm like, great, first issue, we've established loads of stuff. What the hell happens next? You know, how do we actually get the characters from issue 1 to issue 5? What are the things that need to happen? And I knew a few of those things from the very start, but one thing you sort of notice as you start to really dig into the weeds of the script is, oh yeah, the characters need to be here in a few pages time, but they're here. Oh crap. And then you have to start putting in scenes to hurry them along and move them along, and just like a chess game, you know, just moving pieces around the board. But yeah, I always know the ending to my stories, but the sort of circumstances around them and the journey to get there is always changing, which is probably a failing on my part because I should probably be more organized, but it's working out. So I'm going to keep doing it that way, I think.
Well, I mean, I kind of, whenever a writer describes something like that in regards to, I mean, say for example, I was spoken to Kieran Gillen, he talked about Week Div, and he had, and I think s10e12 as well. Said, yeah, I know I'm getting there, and I know I started from here. I was imagining it like this, like a skipping rope, and it's going all over. Yeah, but it will end up over here eventually. It's going to go. So it's the fun of the journey, as it were.
Yeah.
Considering there has been some time, I mean, I quite like the idea as well of the timeline being very short within the space of the 5 issues, because it really does give it a sense of real kineticism as well. And you read that certainly in the previous issues. But what you have perhaps seen in the worlds of AI and mecha and robots against from when you first started, obviously your influences were Japanese manga and anime. Surely you've been looking at the videos of Boston Dynamics and going, holy crap, wow, maybe I should just really kind of keep a close eye on what's going on here.
Yeah, it's so uncanny, isn't it? Like I don't know whether to be. I mean, I think the very first time I saw the Boston Dynamics stuff, I was a bit of like not afraid, but a bit like, oh, maybe we're going too far now, because that's the fluidity of the robot's movement and stuff is so lifelike, and you're like, oh, this is wrong. Should we be doing this? But now I don't really know what to think. I mean, it's like I don't know. Like it, I guess they're not like AI driven too much, so they're not like gonna like turn on their masters kind of thing. What actually worried me more recently actually was there was a whistleblower at Google who came out and said, "Oh, Google's working on an AI. I have a strong belief that it has now become sentient." And I don't know if you saw this, but he published lots of chat
Yeah,
logs.
but then I also saw a picture of him And then I thought, we're fine. We're fine. No, we're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But I think before it kind of got debunked and stuff, I was like, oh, that's probably a bit more worrying. I don't know why. That's the thing. There was nothing specific to fear, but I think it's just like there will come a point where we'll cross that uncanny line where we're going to have to maybe accept it, or someone like a government or something will have to maybe crack down on it, like stop going too far. I don't know, but certainly in KILLTOPIA, like the later issues, I added a lot more in about the main robot character Crash, like questioning his own purpose a bit more, like, well, who made me? Because he doesn't know who made him. It's like, well, why am I even here? Why do I exist? Questioning his purpose on this earth, and that's something that definitely ramped up a lot more in the last 2 issues, and will in the last one as well. So I think a lot of that came out of that sort of stuff we were seeing as well. I'd say the 5th one definitely has a lot more around sort of activism and protest, and the whole idea that, and I truly believe this, that if we all just stopped bickering online for like just an hour and talked about, okay, how can we get together as human beings who all share this planet, put our differences aside and just work towards making things better, I truly believe that we could do that if things got bad enough. But so that's it. A lot of dark stuff happens in the issue, but that's the overall theme: is that, hey, when our backs are against the wall, like COVID, we can work together and get through it. But we need to just stop being so horrible to each other. And
it's been interesting to see how you. I mean, the book's always. I mean, for all the action and for all of the bombast on the page and what you're putting in to really kind of make it a visually striking book. I mean, there's always been stuff of discussion, and certainly in number 4 for me, there was a lot where you really kind of getting into some really big ideas. I mean, you talk about the guy from Google. For me, there was a tech billionaire who really had some issues and thoughts about AI, and that he felt that they were a major threat. But then it's Elon Musk, and strangely enough, my thoughts on what he thinks has taken a serious dive in recent weeks. So quite frankly, maybe I'm not that scared. We've got a couple of comments. We haven't got any questions. By all means, quickly, guys, because I think we're going to keep Dave with us for another 10 minutes or so. But Clydeen Nee, this is more about the way that the books go out. Just to let you know who Clydeen is, by the way. Renowned colorist, also is the person responsible for the Artist Alley at San Diego Comic-Con. So it's great to have Clydeen watching us. Thank you very much indeed. I love physical copies of books, but I'm happy with digital editions from books overseas. I can imagine that's always satisfying to you as well, because it does kind of help with your production costs as well, but you're also still getting the story out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly with KILLTOPIA 5, we're offering 5 books, so that's like shipping wise, that's quite big. But we have seen quite a lot of people out of the gate just backing the digital collection, and I suspect that's maybe why, just because, the shipping cost is going to get a bit nuts. I believe it's going to be something like £24 to ship all 5 books. So that's not insignificant, So I totally agree. Sometimes when I'm backing Kickstarters the other way, over in the States or somewhere else, I'll go digital. As much as I love physical books, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, because you can't back everything, as much as we'd like to support everyone. But yeah, pockets are getting a bit tighter lately.
Well, I mean, but then again, you've also got Leanne D, good friend and fan of the show, follower of the show. I don't mind paying extra to have a physical copy shipped here to the States. So there we go. We have people who are willing to invest in books if the story's there and if it's strong enough. And heaven knows, KILLTOPIA has the following to show that it's definitely got that strong spine, and you've definitely got a winner on your hands. Speaking of that, we may be seeing KILLTOPIA in another form. Please talk to us about a possible adaptation which is being kicked around.
Yeah, so back in 2019, I was approached on Instagram just randomly by a TV animation startup in LA. Like, oh, we'd like to, talk about turning KILLTOPIA into an animated TV show. And I was like, you get approached like that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I didn't read it for a while. Then he messaged again, like, hey, no, seriously, like, here's my website, here's our website, or we're a real company. And I was like, oh, well, this is real. I was like, okay. So working with them and my publisher, BHP, who are based in Glasgow, yeah, we sold the rights to KILLTOPIA as a animated TV show. So COVID kind of delayed things a bit, but they're working on a pilot just now for to hopefully shop around the networks next year, networks and streamers. So Netflix, Crunchyroll, Amazon, all those kind of places. So yeah, they're working on that now. It's all built in Unreal Engine. So it's all like motion capture, like real time,
wow.
like the top kind of tech. And the co-founder of the studio was like the top tech animation consultant on that Lion King movie that came out, the remake. So when it comes to like sort of photorealistic kind of tech, like they're really like so talented, and some of the character models and things I've seen just look so cool. And I think they're looking for so I think maybe in March next year, I think they're maybe looking to like start shopping it around. So it's quite wild. I mean, I'll have some footage on my table at Thought Bubble. I usually bring my iPad with some like a demo reel kind of the characters and stuff. But it's it's just surreal to see kind of the static
Well, I'm
page.
fully expecting you to see you on a San Diego Comic-Con Ballroom 20 panel, shopping this out as when Netflix decide to get their finger out their ass and get it out there. There you go. I'm now speaking out into reality and going with that. Solicitor Smeg, would the adaptation follow the source material to the letter, or will it have room to change the story a bit? What I mean, when they say that you've sold them the rights, what have you sold them? Have you sold them the story structure, or have they got more room to play?
They've got more room to play, but it was interesting because at the very start of the whole process, they were like, they asked me tons of questions. Like we got into Zoom calls. I talk with them over Discord quite a lot. They check in like, okay, so this character, kind of what is their kind of atmosphere? What's their kind of vibe, their personality? How would you describe them as a person? And even down to the world, because Neo Tokyo, the whole city itself in KILLTOPIA is very much a character in itself. And that came from my love of games as well. Things like Rapture in BioShock, City 17 and Half-Life. These are places, but they also feel so tangible, like characters themselves. So they wanted to capture that in the show as well. So they were okay. So what's the sort of geopolitical climate of Neo Tokyo? What are the people like? What's their hopes and fears? Really everything. So the core cast are definitely being worked on in the show. So they're not going to deviate really far away from that. So it's going to be, to a point, it'll be the same as the comic, but they have room to deviate if they want as well. That's actually as far as I know for now. But it's just nice that they kind of check in and just sort of say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Is this accurate? Stuff like that. So that's been really cool to be involved in that.
Oh, I can't wait. I personally hope that one day you'll be able to put the pilot together and at least show the pilot to people, and at least then you can also live stream yourself and a live reaction to it and going, that's what they did. Okay, yeah, that would be rather cool. Yeah, that'd be good for your Kickstarter campaigns. The book itself, then, like I say, you're talking next year. You're looking for MCM as a possible physical launch for it as well. But it's really cool that you're talking about getting it to the fans via conventions and showing it out at your tables. You're going to Thought Bubble next weekend. How important has events like Thought Bubble, and indeed Thought Bubble in particular, been to getting the book out to people and developing that community? Or is it a self-sustaining engine as it is?
No, it's massively important, actually. I was, maybe in 2019, I did quite a lot of shows and maybe was getting a bit burned out on it, but COVID, made the sort of appetite for shows come back. And I realized how much I actually missed just speaking with people over the table, and we do get a lot of people who basically come to the con and they're like, oh, you're one of the people I wanted to see this weekend, because I got the Kickstarter. I want to see what else you've got. So, or even like passing trade. Like, it's honestly so many people. I think this maybe speaks to our kind of marketing, because we're kind of relentless on social. People like double take, they walk past the table and then stop and go, I've seen this somewhere before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it's weird. I mean, even at London, which is such a heavy footfall, people will come over to the table and I'm like instantly like, I recognize you from last year. Oh, cool. Thanks for coming. Like, and it's just so nice. Thought Bubble in particular, seeing as you asked, like it was weird because the very first Thought Bubble we did, I'd heard so much about it, how awesome it was to get the name out there, and it was 100% true. As a creator, it's the kind of show you go to network and obviously meet fans as well. But you know, afterwards at the party, you just like politely speak to people or just walk the show floor, talk to people. And that kind of fed into like, you know, we all, you know, all the different people I met that weekend, we all followed each other on Twitter. Your overall audience grows and support network as well. Because now there's so many more like artists and writers who share my Kickstarter and vice versa. You know, we're all helping each other out kind of thing. So in terms of becoming more embedded in the comic creator community, and that sort of support network, Thought Bubble is just invaluable, 100%.
Well, I mean, what are you expecting from next weekend then?
Just
more
to
the same. Because you turned around and said when we were talking about the show and coming on the show, you're saying it sounds like it's going to be an absolutely epic Thought Bubble. And yeah, I think last year there was a real kind of sense it was maybe 80% there because there was a lot of, say, the Americans are a little bit concerned about COVID. There was still a little bit of that reticence, but now there's more of those coming over, and it's just going to be bigger and better and bolder. I mean, what's your hopes and expectations from the show?
I think you've kind of nailed it, yeah, because it felt so good to be back last year, but it felt like everyone was kind of holding back a bit, you know, because there was still that sort of trepidation, like, oh, is this actually safe to be doing this? Like, I don't think people could unwind and really get into the spirit of it as much as like previous years. So I think this will feel like, to use a bad term, a full fat kind of Thought Bubble experience. It's going to be a lot more people, I think, and a lot of people who weren't at last year's one, hopefully, who still want to pick up my new stuff, they'll be able to do so next weekend. So over and above all that, I mean, I sort of see Thought Bubble as maybe I don't know if this is a Scottish term or if it's a UK term, but a jolly. I just see it as like it's the last con of the year. If we have great sales, great. If we just break even, great. Whatever. It's just almost like the end of year party, the last chance you get to see all the other creators that year, the fans, and it's just a nice chance to reconnect before we all go away for Christmas and stuff. So I always get excited just for that reason as well. But the actual con itself is a kind of bonus. So it's just a nice show at the end of the day. It's just really, really pleasant.
Well, I mean, we've got a couple of people who are watching, and there's Leanne, who's really, she's disappointed that she's not able to make it this year. I miss Scotland so damn much. She did the full tour, by the way. She did the full gamut, but she did Scotland and then came down to Thought Bubble and really enjoyed it. And she says, unfortunately, she is having to tap out, unfortunately, but congrats on the book. Looking forward to see it on TV in the future. So there you go. You've got yourself a guaranteed viewer there. I mean, the actual show itself, I mean, we're going to do a bit of a thing on it after we've wrapped up with yourself. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring to the show. I'm looking forward to seeing what you bring to it as well. KILLTOPIA 1 to 5, the final chapter. I mean, if I've been scrolling through the pages, I mean, not only that, but I mean, let's just one more time. Let's go through these prints that you're offering as a pack. I mean, Frank Quietly, Derek Robertson, Casper Wingard in there, Sebastian Perez. Oh, Tula Lote. Interesting. Yishin Lee as well, Alex Moore, Lucy Sullivan, Greg. I mean, yeah, Craig Patton as well. Some great names in there. But I think that just also goes back to the way that you run your Kickstarter. I mean, if we just go through the pledges, I mean, you start from £5. It's a nice, manageable number for people to work with for the digital edition. The physical book is the next tier. Physical book and a print as well. It's £10. I mean, it's a nicely affordable campaign. You really kept you make it a real bonus for people to dive in, and that I think is reflective in the way it's being backed. Yeah, 3,300 at the moment over the top. 27 to go, and fully expecting it to go even further. Where can you see KILLTOPIA going beyond this particular story? I mean, is there a definite end, or can you see yourself spinning off into side stories, spin-offs, one shots? Or are you now putting a line under KILLTOPIA?
No, definitely not. Definitely not drawing a line under it. So I am a big fan of not kind of doing retreading the same ground over and over. So I am working on a sequel, the very first issue of a sequel. I've not told anyone this before about this. This is just like completely new for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm working on issue 1 of a script for issue 1 of a sequel just now, but it won't be. It's going to be set quite a few years after the first arc. Some old characters might return, but so far there's only one character returning from the first arc, and they're the main star. So I've sort of teased this sort of concept on Twitter before, but I always thought about doing a cyberpunk story about because there's a lot of like criminals and low lives and kind of hackers and stuff in KILLTOPIA. I wanted to flip it and do something about the cops in Neo Tokyo, so that's going to be the main sort of theme of the new one. The other side of law and order. So it's going to be like kind of cops working in Neo Tokyo, what they're kind of dealing with. I'm also I've said this on Twitter as well, but I'm thinking about doing an anthology at some point as well. I've already got an artist in mind for my short for it, so I'm hoping to maybe do open submissions later next year. If any writers or artists want to get involved, they can just keep an eye on Twitter, or if Twitter hasn't gone down in flames by then.
Well, yeah, there's that.
And
my
other series,
I'm not going to lie. I am going to pitch this. I am hoping for a time after time Declan. Time after time crossover, because I think that would be a really interesting idea to put that forward, and then get Declan Shalvey to put arts for it. So there you go. Let's go full Scott on this. And let's just go all out on it. But no, I think it'd be. Oh no, he's not Scottish. He's just Irish. What am I about? Yes, yes, north of the border. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Listen, I'm from Yorkshire. We're an insular place here. If it's not from Yorkshire, it's not worth talking about. I believe there was a comedy sketch about that. But there we go. Right, but no, I'm looking forward to seeing the final chapter come out, and I'm definitely looking forward to having a physical copy in my hand, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Harrogate next weekend. Dave, thank you so much indeed for coming on, and congratulations so far on how the Kickstarter's gone. One more time for people who may want to back it, and we'll get the address up on the screen. Go to kickstarter.com/projects/bust. Yeah, okay. KILLTOPIA-5- the final chapter. All the dashes, you know how it works. Best place for people to keep a track on how the campaign's going, and also what you're up to.
Yeah, so
is it Twitter for now?
Twitter for now, yeah. So it's Twitter. It's at Dave S Cook. The S is my middle name. So yeah, pretty much that's my main sort of place as well. I'm also on Instagram, Dave Cook Comics. What else am I up to? So I'm working on finishing KILLTOPIA 5 with the guys. I'm also writing a new video game book. So earlier this year, I put out through a publisher a big hardback encyclopedia of beat 'em up games from across history. So I'm now working on a follow-up to that about run and gun games, so like Contra, Cuphead, that kind of thing. Also working on issue 2 of BPM, which is the KILLTOPIA kind of prequel set in the same universe in the 90s. It's kind of martial arts cops fighting a drug syndicate in the 90s. It is in the same world as KILLTOPIA, but not like cyberpunk. And a few other things as well, but can't really say too much about those at the moment.
Fair enough. Once again, looking forward to seeing you next week. I'll be the one at the bar, and whatever you're having, mate, do let us know, and we'll get that into your hand. Dave, thank you so much indeed for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Congratulations on the campaign so far. Onward and upwards, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Bye.
Excellent. So there you go. That's Dave S. Cook. Follow him on his social media. And again, kickstarter.com/projects/bust. KILLTOPIA 5, the final chapter. Hopefully we've whetted your appetite with some of the things that you've seen on screen. What Clark is doing with those pages is just absolutely phenomenal. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about this then. We are going to be heading, myself and Dave and several thousand other comic fans, to Harrogate next weekend for what is, frankly, the biggest comics-centric show that the UK has to offer. Like Dave described it as, it is also the big hurrah for the the end of the convention season here in the UK. We've had MCM, we've had all the rest of it. This is our final big blowout before we can kind of look forward to Christmas and just kind of wrapping things up. Thought Bubble is happening next week. It's also just to kind of clarify as well, because we have had one or two people messaging me and asking, well, what else is happening? But, very quickly as well, Chuck Cook as well, because Dave is lurking in the background. Yet another outstanding guest. So there you go, Dave. You're an outstanding guest. Congratulations. Thanks for that. And he's got thumbs up and everything. Excellent. Next week is not just, and it never has been, just the convention. It is a comic art festival. It was interesting to see a bit of a discussion online this week, considering that we had someone who I follow on Twitter basically saying that Comic-Cons shouldn't be called Comic-Cons unless they are comic-led. They should be called something else. And I got it. I understood. I mean, this has always been a discussion about how comic cons are, and whether if it's a pop culture con, it should be called something else. But no, the Thought Bubble has always been a festival. It's always been a week-long thing, and we do have some things we're going to talk about, including something that's happening on Tuesday, which hopefully I'm going to be attending, if anything, just to take some photos and catch up with the birthday boy. It was Ram V's birthday yesterday. But no, the convention happens next weekend, and as you can tell from what's been scrolling through so far, some incredible guests. Let's just quickly go through and let's go through bit by bit. Ram is on there, G. Willow Wilson, Hamish Steele, Gail Simone. I mean, we've got other names as well, which we can kind of dive into. For myself, Mark Bernardin is a highlight as well. Raina Telmeyer there, Christian Ward, who I've yet to meet in person, and we just keep bumping into each other on social media. I want to definitely catch up with him. But no, the actual show itself not only is taking place in the weekend in Harrogate, but it's also taking place across Yorkshire as well, considering that we also had something that's currently running at the Corn Exchange in Leeds, which I was again also lucky enough to bump into because I went in to get my comics yesterday, and I managed to pop in Tula Lote, also known as no, it's Tula Lote. Let's stick with the name. I'll be generous and say that's a name. But no, they had an amazing presentation of her work, which is currently running at the convention, the Corn Exchange, and if you are heading towards Harrogate and heading towards the north of England, do get the chance to pop past and check this out, because it is just an amazing looking presentation of Tula's work, which is held in a small little area, just a little. It's two doors of the Corn Exchange, but it's got some incredible print work of hers, which you can go and check out. Like I say, other aspects as well. You've got herself a writing masterclass, which is taking place on Tuesday with Ram. That's being held at the Leeds library, which is going to be an amazing location to go and check that out. You've also got Gail Simone in Conversation. That's happening on Wednesday at the Leeds Arts Uni. You've got the storytelling workshop with Hamish Steele on Thursday. You've got the Mondo Belgrave Music Hall takeover. That's happening in Leeds as well. They very much recognise Leeds as its spiritual home, but through politics, it does have to head to Harrogate at the end of the day. But then you have the Art of Ian Kennedy exhibition launch party as well, taking place on the Friday. That's going to be particularly packed. Ian Kennedy is just a legend when it comes to comic art, and what he's done for British comics and just raising the art form is just phenomenal. And this is a worthy celebration. Again, these are events that are taking place over the course of the weekend. And it's just great that it's still a full week celebration of comic art and illustration. There's not many shows that can do that. and it's great that we're still having such a thing happening here in the UK. If you are heading to Thought Bubble, hopefully you'll be joining us myself, because I'm going to be heading there, and I'm going to be hopefully live streaming certainly some interviews. I'm certainly going to interview as many people as I possibly can as well. The idea will be either I'm going to compile them all together and get something which I will then post online as kind of like a post Thought Bubble kind of setup, and we'll get that up online. Or I may be a little bit too preoccupied with getting home from Harrogate next week. So what I might try and do is trim them all together, and next week's episode will be kind of like a compendium of some of the interviews that I'm going to be hosting next week. And I've already gotten the go-ahead to speak to a whole bunch of people, including the likes of Shelley Bond, Rachel Smith has agreed to talk to me. Mark Bernardin has agreed, but yeah, that's a little bit more up in the air. Do join us next week. We are going to be on live. We will have something happening at 6 o'clock, but whether it's going to be a live recap of the festival or a whole collection of video clips, hopefully you can bear with us, whichever way that happens. Hopefully you're going to join us next weekend, because we're going to be celebrating Thought Bubble taking place at the Harrogate Convention Centre next week. Right. Let's talk about July 2023. And let's talk about a badge sale that happened yesterday. We've got a bunch of people who took part in the badge sale, and we've got ourselves people who have been talking about the aftermath. Yeah, it was solicitous, Meg. I whiffed on SDCC badges this year, so unless I win that $2 billion Powerball jackpot, then go ham on the auctions when they happen, I need a plan B. Yeah, it was. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't the utter car crash that I thought it was going to be, considering we had the pre-registration badge sale, which crashed and burned badly, literally from the moment they opened up their waiting room. The sheer deluge of people, and it was only 50,000, which is the estimate of 55,000 is the estimate of people going for badges for the pre-registration. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people going for badges. The poll that I put up, just to find a base rate, certainly of the people who follow me on Englishman and SDCC, we were looking at around 40% of people getting themselves 4-day and preview night, 20% getting themselves at least 2 days, 20% getting one, and then another, the remainder completely lucking out, which kind of does the math out, and that bears out as to how the actual badge sales usually go. As it happens with the badge sale, completely managed by SDCC this time, or at least on their infrastructure, on their member ID page. It's not done through a third party. It was, I believe, it was. The background stuff is being managed by this third party, but it's all being done on the infrastructure and on the servers for Comic-Con UK. And this time it held up. Thankfully, people did manage to get their badges and get through the badge sale, even if they were having to go in, certainly from a calamitous error when it came to the returning registration. You may have followed this, as I had a number of friends who had themselves badges bought, and it wasn't just one or two. There was a whole deluge of people who had their badges cancelled, and this was on Tuesday. They were ready to go. They thought they were excited to attend San Diego Comic-Con back again as returning registration, at which point they were contacted by Comic-Con stating that their badges are being cancelled because it seemed that their badge sale had been part of a spurious attempt, a site. I'm trying to remember the words that they used, but it was a way a web exploit. That was it. And on this one, I think we're going to have to blame one site and one site only. And it wasn't Twitter this time, and it wasn't Reddit. We're going to have to blame Discord, I'm afraid. Discord did have a bit of a chat on how to possibly game the process of getting into the queue and into the waiting room ahead of everybody else, using URLs and using backdoor development kits. And it just was a stressful moment for so many people. To maybe they were part of a badge buying group, and this exploit had been used by the person who had managed to get in, and everybody lost their badges. And it was, like I say, a widespread issue, which kind of makes me wonder. And I do want to do a little bit more research, because it did seem that it seemed to be like a go-to excuse for why these badges had been cancelled, that it was this web exploit, again with the air quotes. What else was going on? Was there something a little bit more spurious in the code? I don't want to start casting aspersions, and I don't want to go with full conspiracy. There is no tinfoil inside this hat. But at the end of the day, it did seem a little bit strange that so many people were being tarred with this web exploit email. And also I felt, and Caroline will back me up on this, and she stated as well, the fact that it said in the email as well that we will not be responding to any emails and any kind of questions regarding the cancellations. It's just done. Your fault. Too bad. I felt that was a really draconian kind of method, especially if somebody had been part of a badge buying team and they felt that their plans could go ahead. They could start looking at flights. They could start looking at accommodation, and then to discover that their badges were null and void. Thankfully, the friends that I did have did take part in the open registration yesterday. A large number of them did get themselves their badges. It seems that either whatever hole they had in the code, they managed to fix. And yeah, it was certainly more robust from what I read. There was no collapsing, no crashing of the servers, and the badge sale did go ahead. What did you do? How did you do in the badge sale? This is our question for the week. If you're watching this after the fact, answer in the comments. And while you're there, of course, hit like, subscribe, do what you need to do, and follow along with what we do. Yeah, let us know how you did in the badge sale in the comments and in the chat, of course. Did you get your 4-day? Did you get your preview night? Will we be seeing you in San Diego next year? I'm looking forward to it. As it happens, I was unable to take part in either of the badge sales because I am still officially press for the show, even though I haven't actually done press for San Diego Comic-Con for a couple of years now, if anything, because I've been too busy. I've handed in my badge whenever I got myself a panel. And yes, I will be hoping to do panels again because I've got that bug. I'm doing panels next year if it kills me. And I'm still determined as well to host a British film production overview, so something on Pinewood and Elstree and their influence on the international film production industry. And I still want to get the phrase, how Britain saved and continues to save Hollywood's arse. I want the word arse in a San Diego Comic-Con souvenir guide at some point. That's the plan. That's the guide. But there we go. Toby, if they didn't take a tough stance on that practice, people won't learn this is something they should do. You're absolutely right. I mean, like I say, really it was the ban hammer. It came out big and it came out hard from CCI. They really did go very hard with their response. But there we go. Sarita P, I was at 38 minutes and then it pushed me back to 46 minutes. So there was still something going on with the math. And I'm wondering if we're still going to see some emails going out in a couple of weeks' time when the aftermath is broken down and maybe the web exploit still was used by some. Who knows? We should find out. Chuck Cook, there were a few folks in our group who needed a set of passes or were trying to backfill additional days. We were able to get passes for everybody. Excellent stuff. Good to hear. Had I just been doing it myself, I'd have been completely screwed because I had an hour wait after all passes had been sold. I think we've talked about this before. Badge teams really to get your badges for San Diego Comic-Con remain really the only proper way, not proper, the recommended way to get yourself your badges, because strength in numbers. There's just too many people wanting to get badges, and my timeline yesterday was filled with those that said, oh, I just woke up this morning and thought I'd give it a go. It doesn't work like that, does it? It really is. It's a little bit of an effort to get to San Diego. And thankfully, there are a number of us that will be making it. I will be an Englishman in San Diego next July. Whether I'll be doing it as press or behind a panel desk, who knows. Michael P., my friend, scored 4-day in preview night. Great to hear. Excellent stuff indeed. Indeed, yeah, Michael P. We are going to try. I'm going to do my best to get Michael P. A panel regarding The Expanse. I'm going to move heaven and earth. I'll be a producer for his panel. So there you go. That's. I could even try and do something like that, but who knows? But there we go. Looking forward to it. And now, like I say, the plans can start going ahead about accommodation. And we do have the next step now, which is Hotel Apocalypse, going to be probably taking place next year. That's when the open forum for the blocked hotels in San Diego by CCI and the city go live. Fingers crossed that that's something that you're going to be going for, and hopefully you'll do well on that. But yeah, we'll continue with our road to San Diego throughout the course of the series as we head towards next July. I did notice during my purchases at the buying phase during returning registration that tickets reserved weren't locked in while payment information was being entered. Yeah, that was news to me as well. I commented on this. Apparently this was part of the the returning registration as well. In the past, or when we've had the badge buying set up as that third party, it was a case of you got in, whatever badges it said was available, you had 15 minutes, you could breathe. Those were locked. You could get those badges were available for you for those 15 minutes. Now with this new setup, it was a case of that those badges could vanish into the ether as you were buying. So I can imagine it was still a stressful process, and if anything, taking us back a good 5-6 years to getting fast typing as fast as you could to get all your information in as quick as you could, at which point obviously all sorts of errors could happen. But at least if you did take part and you did get your badges, congratulations. If you didn't, commiserations. Hope you'll follow along An Englishman in San Diego and also the unofficial blog and everybody else with our coverage of San Diego Comic-Con next July. But hopefully you'll also follow along next weekend, Thought Bubble. I'm going to be posting on YouTube and also on Instagram. So do follow along on Instagram.com/An Englishman in San Diego. And you can also follow at YouTube.com/& Englishman SDCC. You'll be joining myself, you'll be joining Dave Cook, and as many people as I can possibly interview in the 2 or 3 days, and also during the fog of a rather nasty hangover, probably on Saturday and Sunday. Who knows? We'll see how bad I behave next weekend. I'll try my best to be relatively sober, at least for one of the days. We'll see how it goes. But thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We're back again next week with our Thought Bubble show. And yeah, it's going to be a hell of a thing. It's either going to be a live show where we look back at the couple of days of Thought Bubble and talk about how it's gone forward, possibly a couple of the videos as well that I've recorded, or it's either going to be a big compilation of the interviews which I've made over the course of the 2 days. Hopefully you can join us 10 a.m. Pacific. I think, yeah, the clocks go back. I think we've gotten all the international clocks nonsense out of the way. So yes, I think we're back to 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. GMT next week. Hopefully you can join us for another Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Watch this video as you may be heading to Kickstarter to once again back KILLTOPIA issues 1 to 5, the final chapter from Dave Cook and Clark Bint. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Hi, and welcome to the KILLTOPIA 5 Kickstarter campaign. My name's Dave Cook. I'm the writer and creator of KILLTOPIA. And yeah, this is our 5th and final book in the series. So it's this is it, the big finale that we've been building up to for 5 years now. And we couldn't have got here without all of your help, of course. All of our great backers and their generosity, all your pledges have just helped us keep this thing going, as well as, all the support from our friends and family and other comic creators and artists out there who have, contributed artwork and pieces to the series over the years. We just couldn't have done it without you all. So yeah, just off the bat, I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's ever helped us out. So yeah, we're here because of you. So thank you so much. So yeah, I know that not everyone will be familiar with KILLTOPIA at this point. So we're going to kick off this video with a bit of a refresher, kind of what is KILLTOPIA, what is our cyberpunk world all about, and what you can expect from the 5th and final book as well. So yeah, we're going to start with that. So do enjoy, and we'll have some more stuff about the Kickstarter campaign itself and all the great rewards you can get at the end. So yeah, do enjoy. KILLTOPIA is an award-winning cyberpunk comic book series set in Neo-Tokyo in the far future. The city's Sector K district is infested with killer mechs. Heavily armed soldiers of fortune called Wreckers are paid to hunt them for money, fame and glory. The series begins as a rookie wrecker called Shinji encounters the world's first sentient mech called Crash. They are both hunted like fugitives across the neon-soaked metropolis by wreckers, android killers, and Yakuza gangs in a violent battle royale to end them all. Their mission? Use Crash's unique gift to cure the world of a devastating nanomachine plague called the Rot. Simple, right? Meanwhile, an artificial intelligence called Ayo watches Neo-Tokyo unraveling as the hunt for Crash escalates. It's watching, scheming, and waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself to the world. The series has been created from a love of old-school manga and anime, dystopian fiction, and the work of Japan's finest video game developers. KILLTOPIA 5 takes place during the Wreckfest X tournament, which pits 50 of the world's most violent killers against each other in brutal battle royale combat for money, fame, and glory. Meanwhile, deep underground, the rogue AI known as Ayo is turning people into robotic husks to help power a secretive and abandoned wormhole gate developed long ago by Japan's top scientists. Once the gate is activated, it will alter the course of humanity and our planet forever. As the Wreckfest X competitors psych themselves up for the slaughter, a group of rebels, activists, hackers and losers join forces to fight back against Ayo before it can trigger the wormhole. All that stands before them is the KILLTOPIA hunting grounds, which are now full of crazed wreckers that will kill anyone on sight for cash bonuses, big prizes and fame. No sweat, huh? In the explosive 55-page finale of KILLTOPIA, the fate of Neo-Tokyo is decided as old friends and enemies fight as one to save their city from total collapse. And it will be very, very bloody. I hope you enjoyed our overview of KILLTOPIA. Now we're going to finish this video with a look at some of the rewards you can get from backing the campaign. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support.